Hello, guys. Welcome back to a new video of Think Talks. Today we have Catherine. Catherine is a sophomore at NYU's Shanghai campus with the intention to double major in finance and data science. Welcome, Catherine.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So, my first question is, why did you choose to double major in finance and data science, and how do you see these two fields complementing each other?
So, when I got accepted into NYU Shanghai, we actually all get accepted as undecided. So, I guess we have a bit more time to figure out our majors than in a lot of other universities. And originally, I knew I wanted to do something in business, like finance, but I also had an interest in computer science. Although in high school, I didn't actually do much for it, so I didn't know like how to code or anything. But my freshman year, when I first started, I took a programming class and I really enjoyed it. So I wanted to do something that could include computer science, data science, and this is more like a technical thing, but a lot of the classes for the data science can also be used towards the finance major. So I thought data science would be more beneficial, especially with a lot of the jobs that could be in fintech instead of just finance or just in computer science, data science.
No, yeah, especially like nowadays, like the number of fintechs are just increasing. Um, but you said you wanted to do something with business like straight away. You already knew about that. So what led you to choose NYU to study finance?
So I know that NYU has Stern, right, the business school, and is ranked pretty highly in academics. So especially since it's in like New York City which has Wall Street and all that, I was like, okay, I really want to be in a big city, working at a huge bank and making a lot of money. Like for
Yeah, of
me,
course.
like I didn't grow up with that much money, and so in my head, I was always like, oh, I need to find a job where I can be rich. And so I was like, okay, business, investment banking, that kind of thing seems really interesting because I think as long as you have passion for it and you know how to do all the um, like technical stuff, you'll be fine in the industry.
Um, so about your application process. So in your application process in general, what helped you to stand out to NYU Shanghai to be like, okay, I want you. So what helped you?
So I did my application in the 2022 cycle. And I think they changed the application a little bit because when I applied, it was like the normal Common App, and then you write an essay about why you want to choose NYU. But now I think that essay is optional. But I
Mhm.
think what made me stand out was the essay itself because I tried being really genuine and candid. I know a lot of like students when they're writing the application want to make it pretty formal and try to make themselves seem like, oh, maybe as smart as possible or like as cool as possible, but I just tried being myself. And I talked about some pretty embarrassing things on there, but I thought that it was a good like representation of who I am and why I wanted to go to the school. So my advice is just to be like as close to yourself as possible and just write the truth. Don't try to like make yourself seem anything that you aren't.
Wow, that's really powerful because like, especially me because I'm now writing my essays. I just want to be smart as possible. So like, it's really good hearing that. It's really good hearing that. So, what led you to choose NYU Shanghai as your campus? How do you think it differs academically from the New York campus?
So for me personally, I'm half Chinese, so I had that like immediate connection because I wanted to be able to learn more about my culture that I couldn't really do in the United States. And I think the academics is definitely different. If you talk to a lot of, say, the STEM students here, they're gonna say that the classes are harder in Shanghai than in the New York campus. And I believe it's because of the Chinese students itself. So half of our student body are Chinese nationals from China, and then the other half are internationals from the US and a lot of other countries. But the Chinese students in particular have a really strong work ethic and dedication to studying. I mean, they just came out from taking their Gaokao, which is like their college entrance exam, and is so hard. So where they like study at school for like hours every single day, and then you see them here and they're studying a lot. I think a lot more than what a lot of the students in the New York campus do. And they're really good at a lot of the maths and the sciences, which I think forces every other student to start putting in more work to try and match them in that aspect.
So would you say that the the students in Shanghai are better prepared than the students than in New York, or no?
I don't think so. It's probably more like person to person basis, but I think a lot of the Chinese students just grow up in more of a culture of like studying
Yeah.
is like the only thing that will bring you success in school. So they're more focused on the academics than, say, other parts of the um, college life. But in New York, the students and in like American universities, they're more focused on, say, putting effort into the clubs and that kind of thing.
Okay. So with all of those like differences and stuff, what'd you say is like the biggest difference in student life in between Shanghai and New York?
Hmm. I think the biggest difference, this is gonna sound pretty cliche, but is the location. For example, like Shanghai culture is pretty different than New York culture. And at least for me, I feel like in Shanghai, I'm definitely more independent than I would be in New York because everyone is forced to have like so many new experiences and you're a bit more detached from like your family and your support system at home that kind of forces you to be a bit more brave when trying new things and becoming more disciplined with yourself than you would if you were somewhere closer to home.
So it challenges you to be like more like independent and stuff, right? But
Yeah, I think in like regards to the academics, the campus in Shanghai is also a bit smaller than the one in New York. And like we only really have like one huge building compared to New York. There's a lot more students, a lot more classes. So here, I think we're also a bit more like tightly knit community compared to New York.
um just a quick question. Do you live on campus or outside of campus?
So for freshmen and sophomore, we're required to live at the school's dorms, but when you are a junior or a senior, you can live off it.
Okay. Do you think there's like a big difference? Like, would you say it's harder to live by yourself or harder that you need to sleep with someone else in the dorms? What would you say it's the um easiest and the yeah, what'd you say was the easiest? Yeah.
So I am personally waiting for the day to move out of the dorms because I feel like when you live in the dorms, you can kind of make like NYU Shanghai your entire life and you never really see people outside of it. But if you were to live off campus, you get more of that like city feel because you'd have to commute. You could say like take the subway each morning, and at least doing that instead of taking like the school shuttle bus, you're seeing like more people, different kinds of things than you would if you were to just stay at the school every single day.
Yeah, that's kind of fair. Like I wouldn't know. Like for me, like after 2 years especially, I'd have move out because I would feel tired of sleeping in the dorms. Because do you share a room with someone or no?
So our dorms are like, I think, the best out of all of the NYU campuses, just my opinion. But I do share a room with someone, but there you can get like a single, of course. But my roommate is super nice. We're able to choose who we wanted, and we have our own bathroom, we have our own kitchen, and we have our own balcony. So
Jesus, okay, that's way better than majority of American dorms.
yeah.
So
So
uh, no, no, you can continue. It's fine. It's fine.
I think it's just because we live in like a city that is different. For example, I visited my sister at her university in the US, and we got to see her old dorms. I was like, "Oh my God, I cannot imagine how you could live here." And then I'm like in my dorm, and some days I'm like, "Oh, I can't wait to get out." But then I have to realize this is the life. I'm living the life, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what has been the most challenging and rewarding part of studying in Shanghai?
So the most challenging is definitely being in a foreign country and not speaking the language because say I mean it's hard just being here and like in the beginning, oh, you don't know where to go to buy food, you have to get onto the time zone and stuff like that, which I think is a huge hurdle that everyone has to like jump at the beginning. And then especially being so far from home, it's like the time zone difference is also an issue, so you can't really talk to your family as much as you want. But then the easiest probably comes with like the people here, because even though you can't visit your family like every weekend, you make a lot of new friends who are also going through like the exact same things, and they have the same mindset when it comes to like, oh, you moved across the world to go to school, so did I, and you're able to connect really easily with a lot of people.
Oh, that's nice. So, would you say it's like the biggest, like outside of the Chinese people, would you say is like the second biggest nationality in Shanghai?
So I think the Americans,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which makes sense because it is an American school. And then outside of that, I think Mongolians, they're pretty close to China. They border it. So I guess
Yeah.
that also kind of makes sense. But yeah, there are a lot of people from Russia as well. There are a few Europeans, not as many as you might expect because there are a lot of people from Asia, but I think it's pretty good mix of different cultures.
Okay. So Shanghai and New York are super big in global finance, right? So, how's it living in like both of those cities or close influence your perspective on global finance and data science industries?
So I'm not exactly sure how it has influenced my thoughts yet. Maybe I need to try and get more internships and knowledge from all these companies. But I will say New York is a lot more fast paced. It's like, say you walk down any of the streets where they have a lot of the office buildings, you'll see so many people walking so fast. And then in Shanghai, it seems a bit more homely. Like you see a lot more people taking their time, or all of the or during like break times, you see a lot of these office workers and they're like going together with their friends to get lunch, and it seems a bit more of like a happy atmosphere. I will say, like, China, living here is a lot different than like the thoughts I had before coming over here. Even especially in the US, there's a lot of like people think, oh, China communism, but it's not like that at all. Like there are so many luxury businesses, a lot of huge like tech companies that don't really you probably haven't like heard of in the US or in the Western world. And I think it's really interesting to see how like China has their own ecosystem of, for example, like mobile apps. Like they have their own search engine, their own like Instagram type app.
Okay. Um, so just to finish off, um, what advice would you give to other students considering a double major, or those looking to study at both NYU campuses?
So I think if you want to study at both campuses, I would recommend coming to NYU Shanghai or maybe the Abu Dhabi campus and then studying away at the New York one. Because when you go to the smaller campuses, usually it'll be easier to get, say, like more help from your professors or be like more involved because the student population is smaller compared to New York, where there are just so many students. And one of the requirements for our graduation at NYU Shanghai is to study away at another NYU campus. So if you come to NYU Shanghai, you will be forced to study at like New York, Abu Dhabi, or any of the other satellite campuses compared to in New York. Maybe you're like, oh, I would want to study away in Shanghai, but there's nothing pushing you to do so. And advice for a double major is to plan your schedule wisely because you'll be taking a lot more required classes to like get for the major requirements than someone who's only taking one. For example, you might be like, oh, I really want to take this fun class. And so you take it, but then at the end you realize, oh my God, I don't have any space for the classes that I need to take. So it's important to be very detail oriented when choosing your schedule and also when taking your classes and just studying well.
Okay. So Catherine, I just want to say thank you for your time, for being here, for sharing your experience about NYU Shanghai. And do you have any final words?
I just hope that everyone who is applying to university this year just gets into the one that they're hoping. And for you and for everyone else who is applying, do not stress. Just try and focus on putting the best you that you can show on paper because you will really get in your head and be like, oh my God, I got rejected from a school. My life is over. But it's not because you'll find the place that you're meant to be eventually.
Okay, guys. So see you next time. Bye bye.